Hello, I'm Barbara Lucas, and welcome to the Green Room. We are celebrating our 10th anniversary of this series, which is a collaboration between Washtenaw County's Water Resources Commissioner's Office and the Ann Arbor Community Television Network. Today, our guest is Theo Eggermont, who is Director of Public Works at Washtenaw County. Theo, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on.
So before we launch into today's topic, I'd like to read off a few statistics. The average American throws away almost twice the global average, and our trash problem is growing. As a nation, we throw away at least 60 million tons per year, more than we did just 30 years ago. Yes, recycling has caught on, but on average, about 25% of what recyclers collect is too contaminated for processing and must be landfilled. So as we all know, this trash is an unnecessary waste of energy, resources, and money. So to address this problem in our area, we now have a regional waste authority. So Theo, when did waste authorities first get started?
It was a long time ago. I think it was in the 1940s, 1950s is really when in Michigan they started taking off. And originally they were created to handle waste. It was recycling wasn't part of the picture back then. And so it was figuring out, hey, can we pool our resources and deal with things regionally to work together? And that was focused on sending things to a landfill.
So now we're focused on recycling. That's great. And there's other waste authorities around our area, right?
Yeah, so I think there's 12 solid waste authorities in the state of Michigan. We have one in Washtenaw County, WWRA, on the western side, and they're, I guess, compared to many other authorities, they're relatively small, and they wouldn't be able to handle the extra capacity or the recycling materials from the eastern part of the county. And so the idea is actually that Washtenaw County in this area had the highest population density that did not have a solid waste authority until we formed last year.
Wow.
So there's a one rather large one up in the UP that's a great model. And then there's a couple other ones in Oakland County area. They're relatively close.
Well, ours is a mouthful, Washtenaw Regional Resources Management Authority, and luckily you can call it WARMA for short, which I love. And when did WARMA get started?
Yeah, so the idea started in 2017 as the county was going through the solid waste planning process, and through some discussions there, we realized, and the city of Ann Arbor also played a large part in this, of saying, hey, there's a lot of things that, or issues that regionally we have with recycling. What if we looked at dealing with these issues regionally, since they are often regional problems? And so over the course of, I think it was about 18 months, we gathered stakeholders together. We conducted a study looking at what are the issues, how could they be addressed, what could an authority do. We end up gathering those stakeholders from multiple communities and discussing what would an authority look like. And then just last year, September 23rd, we officially formed and filed the paperwork to become an authority.
Okay, great. And how many residents does it cover currently?
It's a little over 150,000 residents, and Washtenaw County is around 350,000, so not quite half of the population of the county. Ann Arbor Township, City of Dexter, Pittsfield Charter Township, City of Saline, Township of Scioto, City of Ypsilanti, and Charter Township of Ypsilanti are all members of the authority.
Okay, great. So what's the biggest change residents are going to notice?
Yeah, so one of the main goals and priorities of the authority is to increase the quantity of quality recycling. And so there's going to be more educational materials coming to you, helping to give you information about how to recycle properly. So having more resources available to you to teach you how to recycle properly, because I work in this industry and I'm every once in a while, I'm even learning things. I think it was just after working for a year, I found out that the new recommendations were to put plastic caps back on bottles. So recycling information does change over time, and we need to keep updating our information on how to recycle properly.
And I noticed WARMA has a nice website, wrrma.org, and you've got on there the commonly collectible list, which is what is common amongst all the different members, which is really handy. I like that chart a lot. Very helpful.
Yeah, it's we want to call attention to what you can recycle and also what you can't recycle, because I think there's a lot of bad information out there. Things like not bagging your recycling, but recycling them loose, not including plastic films, and making sure that you empty and rinse materials like cans and bottles before you put it in. And one of the biggest challenges for the people who sort the materials down the line are what we call tanglers. And those are things like Christmas lights or cords or hoses. All of those things end up clogging up the gears in the sorting equipment, and it causes some pretty big challenges for them down the line.
Yeah, I hear they have to stop the equipment over and over during the day, and people have to climb up there and cut things out, and it's dangerous. And I mean, people don't realize, they think, oh, it'll be easy for them to grab the stuff and throw it out if they won't take it. But those materials move through pretty fast. I've seen those recycling conveyor belts, and those workers have to work really fast.
Yeah, and the tanglers, so in the processing or the sorting facility, everything gets loaded by a big mechanical bucket and then goes through the gears before it actually gets to the people. So they don't have a chance necessarily to pull the Christmas lights or the hoses or those kind of things out before it gets to the people.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned people shouldn't bag things, which plastic bags are one of those things that get caught up and can't be recycled and jam up the works. But I also read that it's nice if you separate some things.
The one thing that that does vary locally on which sorting facility you send things to, shredded paper sometimes can be recycled if it's bagged, but I think that's somewhat rare.
Okay. All right, so a good rule of thumb is to always check your own local community's website and make sure you understand, because although there's similarities between all of them, there could be few differences, right?
Yeah, we always, our go-to advice for how to recycle things is check locally. So that's going to be a guide that works across the nation. If you check with your municipality, typically is the one who facilitates the recycling process. But in this model, we're moving, at least in the education and outreach part, for the authority. You can also check with your authority. So check your local guidelines.
Okay, great. Let's talk about the steps. We've got tracking and education. Let's start with tracking. What's that all about?
Yeah, so one of the first things that we want to do is we want to find out what are our metrics, how much recycling and how much trash are we collecting. And so we're gathering that information now. The state's actually doing a large scale data collection process, and our members are participating in that. And we're going to be collecting our own metrics as well, to see how much we recycle, how much we throw away, and figure out what over time, how can we make a dent to move some of that recyclable material that's getting landfilled and move that into the recycling stream.
Mm-hmm. And what are the education efforts going to concentrate on?
Yeah, so the first thing that we're going to be targeting is quality, and we're going to do that in a couple different ways. The first thing that we did, as you saw and mentioned, is the flyer, letting people know what contamination looks like and what not to recycle. We want to advise people, when in doubt, check the flyer, and if you're still in doubt, then throw it out, because you don't want to contaminate the stream. That increased costs for your municipality or your MRF, or your sorting facility. A MRF is a lingo for material recovery facility. So that's where the materials get sorted, and if their costs go up, they have to make that up somewhere, and often that gets passed to the municipality, which then gets passed back to you as a resident. So the idea is we want to increase the quality so that those costs go down. Additionally, we're looking at over time, what if we can pool our materials, our recycling materials, and get a better deal, so we can negotiate with those sorting facilities to say, hey, we've got a really great quality recycling stream. That means your costs go down, and we also have a lot of material. So if we sell that into the marketplace, we should be able to get a better deal, which ideally we get, like, the idea is that we'll pass that on to the municipality or to the residents.
Great. Everybody likes to save money.
Yeah.
Especially nowadays, with COVID, the budgets are so tight. And I also hear recycling in Michigan is difficult because of the tipping fee in terms of, I mean, it's financially, it's difficult. Can you explain the tipping fee situation?
Yeah, so right now the cost of landfilling material, sending it to a landfill is relatively, it's very cheap. And so if you look at it of, hey, we have to send something and it just goes and gets tipped into a landfill, that's really inexpensive. We have materials, recycling materials that get sorted. So you have to have people, it goes to that facility, so it has to get transported there and then to another place later on. So you have a little bit more transportation cost, and you also have people sorting the material. You have more human costs. So it's more expensive to recycle materials at this point in time because the cost of landfilling is so cheap. Other states that have demonstrated a much better recovery system for recycling, that what they've done is increase the cost of landfilling, and that makes it cheaper comparatively to recycle.
Back to education, I wanted to mention the app you told me about. That sounded interesting.
Yeah, so this is part of a grant that we won, and it was just released relatively recently. So we worked with the municipalities through the authority, applied for this grant, and it's through Eagle and the Recycling Partnership. And the point is to increase the quality of recycling in the communities. And so it's the perfect thing for what WARMA is looking to do, because that's our main goal at the early stages of our formation. So what will happen is next year, right now everything's delayed due to COVID. We're anticipating in the spring, we'll do a marketing blitz, and we will let people know, here's what the program is about, here's what it's going to look like, and we'll provide a lot of materials, a lot of messaging, encouraging people to recycle and recycle properly, and trying to get that contamination out of the stream. And then there's an app that's a part of that, and you can type in, certain materials, everything from a paper clip to things that are recyclable, like a tin can, to find out, is this recyclable? And so it gives you access to the number of products that we can't fit on a flyer to see if they're recyclable. Yeah. So that's going to be a piece of it. And then there's also a feed on the street campaign. So it's tagging carts to say, oh, it looks like you've got contamination in your cart, and then you get some feedback directly based on what you put out at the curb.
Congrats on that grant. That was pretty exciting.
Yeah.
So you've already addressed quite a few ways that this waste authority is going to save money for its members. And we're also getting environmental benefits when we increase the quantity and quality of recycling, which is what the waste authority's goal is. So can you just, I'm sure a lot of people have heard of the environmental benefits of recycling, but if you could go through a few in terms of like what resources we're saving and, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think right now a lot of it is driven by the market, and right now we're at home and people are buying a lot of things through Amazon or things that come in a box, and so collecting that feedstock and getting it back into the system, you end up not having to use new materials. So collecting paper cardboard, those type of things right now are high value, and you're preventing new materials from entering the stream by recycling.
I read that on the EPA website that paper and paperboard are in fact, I have a statistic here. It said in 2017, recycling paper and paperboard was equivalent to removing over 31 million cars from the road for 1 year, which was really surprising. And, in terms of the resources we save, it's not just, I was thinking about how it's not just the resource, but it's the impact to the environment of the extraction of the resource. I mean, you've got, even with sand for glass, you've got, you have to mine all that stuff.
Yeah, I remember taking a geology course in college, and our professor kept harping on the cost of a can should actually be much higher than it is. The 10-cent deposit that you get back doesn't even come close to the cost that it should be to mine that aluminum.
I think they call those externalized costs and
externalities. Yep.
Externalities, yeah. Cost to society. Okay, what are the environmental benefits of decreasing our need for landfills?
So landfills are something that people typically don't want near them. So as we continue over time, we're saving that space. So we want to prevent more landfills from needing to be created. It's very akin to like a coal power plant, where it's something that we've accepted in society, that we need energy and we need to have things and throughputs. At this point, we're not at a circular economy, so we have to figure out something to do with those materials, and landfill is the chosen way that we don't necessarily have a great solution at this point in time to not create some waste. And so if we can reduce the amount of things that we send to a landfill over time, hopefully we can get closer to that closed loop. And landfills have, again, more externalities. They produce methane, often that's captured, but you also have odors, which can affect nearby communities. There's leachate, so they can leak. So there's a lot of problems that landfills can create. So if we can avoid those, that's definitely a good thing.
Yeah, sounds great. So it looks like there's a whole lot of good reasons for having our new Washtenaw Regional Resources Management Authority. And we already mentioned the website, wrrma.org. I really love the frequently asked questions there. I mean, it's very interesting. I also noticed the state of Michigan's recyclingraccoons.org website, which is helpful. Do you have any other resources you'd like to recommend?
Yeah, I think so. At the county, we provide a number of resources. So if you're looking for places to get rid of hard to get rid of materials, things like household hazardous waste, or things that are just provide a challenge, visit our website. Earth 911 is another good place if you're figuring out, can I recycle this and where can I recycle it? That's another good place to check out.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, it's looks like we're about out of time. But thank you so much for being here today, Theo. It's been really great.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So for this and all our Green Room shows, if you'd like to see archives, please go to washtenaw.org/greenroom. Thanks for joining us here in the Green Room.